A number of years ago, I met with a young teenager who was beginning to struggle with his faith. And as we talked, I noticed that this young man never once smiled. He began by telling me that he was beginning to question the existence of God. He asked, "Why did God allow Jesus to die? Why is there so much violence in our world? Why doesn't God do something about it?" Very difficult questions from a confused teenager. I spoke to him about God's love for us, about the free will that God has given to us, about evil, but nothing I said to him was getting through. For every answer that I gave to this teenager, he had another question for me. And I was really afraid that I would not be able to help him. Finally, after saying a quick prayer to myself, I used an example that related to something the boy had said earlier in our conversation. And then, in a split second, it happened. The teenager's eyes opened wide. A great big smile appeared on his face. And then he practically shouted at me, "I get it now. I finally understand what you're telling me." And after saying thanks, out the door he went. The teenager that went out the door was not the same teenager who came in the door. The change that took place in him was dramatic, to say the least. It wasn't so much what I said to him as it was the Holy Spirit giving the teenager insight, giving him the answers that he was looking for. My sisters and brothers, if we go back over 2,000 years ago, we would find a group of discouraged and defeated individuals who were together in Jerusalem for the celebration of a Jewish festival. These individuals, however, were in no mood for any kind of celebration. They were the disciples of Jesus Christ, whose world had fallen apart. Jesus had called them by name to share in his ministry, and they gave up everything they had to follow after him. And now Jesus was gone, and they were all alone with their doubts, their fears, their questions. Why has this happened? Why was Jesus crucified? Why didn't he save himself? Those disciples had no message to preach, no power to heal, and they were too afraid to teach anyone. So they stayed together, waiting for the Holy Spirit. When we think of Pentecost, we may think of tongues of fire coming down and resting upon the apostles. Very dramatic, I would say. What is even more dramatic, however, is the change that took place in those disciples after receiving the Holy Spirit. They became bold, confident, fearless. They now had a very strong desire to proclaim the message of Jesus to the ends of the earth. The power of the Holy Spirit. Now they understood why Jesus returned to his Father. My sisters and brothers, the same God who sent Jesus Christ into the world and who poured out the Holy Spirit on the apostles is still pouring out his Spirit upon us today. Yes, we have already received the Holy Spirit at our baptism and our confirmation. That is never enough, though. We are always in need of a fresh outpouring of the Holy Spirit in our lives. And so, if at this moment you find yourself confused about something, or down in the dumps, or afraid about something, or worried, or far from God, or far from your spouse, far from your children, or feeling empty inside, take a few minutes today or tonight to be by yourself and to pray. Invite the Holy Spirit to come into your life once again, and ask God to allow you to feel the power of the Holy Spirit. You don't have to say any long prayers. Simply say, "Come, Holy Spirit, touch my heart, change my life." Now, I can't guarantee that tongues of fire will come down and rest upon your heads, but I can guarantee that something will happen to you. Things will start to change in your life. You will start to change, just as those apostles were changed at Pentecost. Come, Holy Spirit, come into our hearts, into our lives once again.